Hey and welcome to Neverwinter with Aragon. So on the preview server for PC there has been a whole rework to the combat changes and how our stats work. And in this video I'd like to go over the healer, what changes have been made and what kind of stats now we need to focus on to gain the maximum benefit for our healing. In this video I'll essentially show you all the things that will supposedly be best for the next mod when these changes actually go to the live server for all of you guys, amongst enchantments, gear and even companions. So let's jump straight into things. So initially when we open our character sheet here, you can see all of the stats and the UI has basically changed of it, and we have a good few more stats here in our rating section. Well, now as a healer what you want to be focusing on is power, as that will benefit our healing. We also want to focus on critical strike, as that will increase the chance that we actually critically heal. We also want to concentrate on our crit severity, as this will increase the potency of our heals whenever we critically heal. And finally we also want to focus on our outgoing healing, getting this as high as possible. So that's pretty much it. Well, now how much of these stats and in which order should you actually focus on them? Well, ideally with a min-max build you max out all 4 of these stats. You can see when a stat rating here is red, that means you're above the cap. When it's green, you're pretty much just adjacent to the cap and you're in the good zone there. You can see the rating contribution there is green, giving me that max 50%. And that's the same there with critical strike and critical severity, meaning I'm gaining the most benefit from these 3 ratings as I possibly can. And we look down at outgoing healing, there's still a good bit more I could benefit from. However, there's no like enchantments or gear or whatnot that would give you this outgoing healing actual rating, this stat, and thus we can't really stack up any more than what it gives us through combined rating. One thing I will have to warn you guys is that power is capped out at 50% from our ratings. That is it. We cannot benefit any more than that 50%. If we stack power, you can see there I have a total of 80%. I don't gain any benefit from that extra 30%. Meaning you don't want to be using buffs and food like watermelon sorbet, which will grant that extra 10% more power. And you won't gain any benefit from that because it's not from ratings. We only gain the benefit to our heals from the actual rating, not anything else. And this is how it currently stands. I don't know whether they're going to change it. And this means, for example, on boons, if you were to stack power, you wouldn't gain any benefit to your heals, because all it will do is it will stack percentage power. You can get a total of 4% here, meaning this total will go up by 4%. However, it won't add to this rating and you won't gain any benefit from it. And for example, looking in companions, you won't gain any benefit from stacking, let's say, a companion like the Compy, giving that extra power, that percentage power. It's not giving the stats power. The things that would give you stats power is, yes, enchantments, gear, anything that gives combined rating will give you power, along with insignias, and also things like your dominant force. So with that said, power is capped at 50% for our heals, and you can only gain it from combined rating. We go to critical strike. Critical strike is a different story. You just want to get this as high as possible through the rating and then also through the total. The higher you get this, the higher your critical chance is. Moving on to crit severity. It's very similar to power. It is capped at 50%. We cannot get this any higher from foods, etc. What you want to do is get it to 50% through your ratings, because you can only gain it through ratings. Buffs, etc., you can see I have 13% there from other contributions, won't give you any benefit to your critical severity on those heals. The max you can get here is that total 50% from the actual rating. So you want to get this capped out, equal to your item level or higher. If you haven't watched my videos, your caps of these ratings is based on your item level. They are exactly equal. To get 50%, you need to have this rating equal to or higher than your item level for any 1,000 rating points you have lower than your item level, you lose 1%. Now on the topic of crit severity, the Vorpal enchantment. The Vorpal enchantment here gives critical severity a total of 20%. And yes, unlike the previous mod 19, where we got the change where we only benefit from half of our crit severity, this is now full again. We can benefit from the maximum amount from the Vorpal, and yes, it will stack above the cap of critical severity, meaning we can get a total of 70% critical severity, 50% from the critical severity rating, and 20% from the Vorpal. So yes, Vorpal will still be best in stock for healing. And now moving down to our outgoing healing. The only way to really stack this up as much as possible is trying to get maximum amount of the wisdom ability score. The higher you get this, the more outgoing healing benefit you get. And along with that, we move over to companions. Here, companion slots have changed, these passive ones. We now have one offense, we have one defense, and we have one utility. And then we have two universal ones. And this means, yes, finally, like the cleric and the warlock, we can stack up all 5 of the outgoing healing companions. And yes, this is what you want to do. There's nothing here that's going to benefit you anymore with your healing whatsoever. Stacking power won't give you any benefit, because the only benefit you can get for power, you can see the baby deep growth here says total damage, but in fact that is power. It will only give you 8% more power, and that percentage we don't gain any benefit from. The maximum we can benefit from is 50% from the actual rating. That's it. So you want to just stack the outgoing healing companions. That's the Neverwinter Guard, you get 3.8%. The Quickling, another 3.8%. The Ion Stone of Radiance, another 3.8%. The Baby Polar Bear Cub, that's another 3.8%. And the Cell Sword, or the Rebel Mercenary, that's another 3.8%. The best one here is in fact the Quickling, because it will give that extra 3.8% critical chance on top of the outgoing healing. And the higher the critical chance we can get, the better, because then more likely we shall be able to critically heal. As a paladin, it's not so vital, as we do have the ability to get that critical touch from our feat, guaranteeing that our next heal will be a crit on that power. However, it is still very important for our Hand of Divinity, which can only rely on that percentage chance there through our critical strike. So yeah, that's pretty much all you want to do. You want to stack up as much of this crit strike, crit severity, and power ratings, getting them capped out, and the rest, wherever you can, max out the outgoing healing. I also didn't mention, damage here will impact your healing. The higher this base damage, mine's 5,255, that directly multiplies your heals, increasing them. So the higher item level you have, the higher base damage you'll have, and the bigger your heals are. So you also want to have maximum item level. Now looking at the actual gear I have, you can see I have the bunch of the Lion Guard gear here. It's actually not the highest item level gear. You can get now to 1,260 with the Divine gear, which is identical to the Lion Guard gear, but you'll have to grind that Zariel favor to upgrade it. But anyway, that aside, this is not going to be like a full build thing, etc., because this is only the preview server and everything is open to change. So what I have here is pretty much what I am using to max out these ratings, these 3 here that you can see are red, and getting as maximum amount of outgoing healing. So yes, I'm using the Tiamat set. The Tiamat set giving 5% extra outgoing healing and 5% incoming healing, which in my opinion then there is the best for healers, especially since HP is no longer a problem. You can see there I'm on 732,000, and this is because it directly is related to your item level. The higher you have, the more HP we have. We also gain a buff there of an extra 10% because healers gain now 10% extra hit points. So yes, the gear I have here, I try my best to get the extra stats to be critical strike and critical severity. My rings I'm using here, you can see I'm using the piercing rings of the assassin. You can either use these or you can use the same ones, the striking ring of the veteran, giving either crit strike or crit severity, just so you can get those capped out. Piercing rings of the assassin are currently very cheap. However, I'm going to assume after this video they're not going to be so. But we shall see. And of course, you want to be using the Lionheart set. The reason for this, the set bonus will give you an extra 10% outgoing healing all the time. Unlike the highest item level set in the game at the moment, the Celestial set, which will only give you the outgoing healing after you've cast 5 encounter powers. So the Lionheart set just makes it a whole lot better. The reason I'm running with these storyteller journals is because they give me extra ability score points. Basically 2 books here give me a total of 2 more ability score points here, which gives me, I believe, a 0.5% more outgoing healing. This can be beneficial. However, if you go and do the calculations, it's pretty similar to just upping your item level by another 150 by using updated ones. However, the other side to this, the storyteller journals, will give you a whole load more HP. So if you don't have the storyteller journals, you'll be just as beneficial using, let's say, the Golden Memories artifact or the Halaster's Blast Scepter or even the Sword of Zariel. That aside, on my mount section here, you can see I am using Dominant Force. I could use the Runic Aura, but with this whole change, it's very easy now to cap your power. Not so much your defense, especially if you're a DPS and you're just concentrating on actually getting as much offense stats as you can. But unless we have content where you particularly need that defense, then it may just be better running Dominant Force if you need that power to cap it out, which I pretty much do here. On the stable side of things, you can see I'm pretty much using insignias, the dominance ones, and you're also using aggression ones, because conveniently they both have the stats you need, critical strike and critical severity, along with their combined rating. So aggression insignias, you can expect them to go up because they are pretty vital for healers. They can be a very easy method to get these ratings up as much as you can. However, you still may want to stack a good few power ones there to also make sure you have this power rating capped at 50%. And as I mentioned before on companions, you just want all that outgoing healing. For companion gear, you also want the maximum amount of item level. You can see I'm just using 3 critical strike ones here. Basically nothing's changed. However, the runestones have changed. I'm basically using a whole bunch of arcane ones, and then I'm using 1 empowered one there. You might need to use profane ones to get that critical strike, and you could even switch out this gear to use your critical severity ones. These critical severity has replaced the armor penetration. So anything with armor penetration in your current live server will now have critical severity. So just keep that in mind when you're preparing your character for the next mod, when these changes actually go live. On the boon points here, again, as I mentioned, power is not going to benefit you whatsoever, so just feel free to stack everything else pretty much. Critical strike here is basically the only one that's going to help you out much. And then on the tier 5 here, you want that outgoing healing and that forte. And then on our master boon, you want either blessed resilience or blessed advantage. Now, on the topic of forte, yes, it has replaced companion influence. Forte is specific to your paragon. If we go ahead and scroll down here to forte, you can see it's giving me divinity regen, awareness and accuracy. Divinity regen is definitely something we are interested in as healers, because all of our healing powers use divinity. The more we can get, the more we can heal. So yes, you absolutely want to be maxing out that forte. On the other side, my other enchantments are basically, I have a whole load of darks here. You might want to use some azures here and there if you need more of that critical strike. You're basically just maxing out your power 50%, and then it's just the balance between critical strike and critical severity. It's actually pretty easy. The lower item level you have, the easier it is to get these caps, as your item level will equal your caps here for that 50%. And then from there on out, it's just getting the maximum amount of outgoing healing. So these changes overall, they're not going to have too much of an impact other than you're going to want to be stacking now armor penetration, which is equal to our crit severity. So hopefully this is somewhat insightful. I doubt things are going to change as a whole before it actually goes live. Maybe one or two things. I'll make sure to keep you guys up to date. But as of now, this is how it is on the preview server. And in my opinion, this is what has been the best. And yes, I have specifically went ahead and tested out that yes, you do not gain any other more buff to your healing when your power is over 50%, and you do not gain any more of a buff to your critical heals when your crit severity is above 50%. And you have to make sure that this 50% is only coming from your rating contribution, your power and your critical severity. Any other buffs won't benefit your heals. Now this may be a bug and it may be fixed in the future, but it could well be just as it is. So if I presented this well, consider leaving the video a like, and if you're new around here, consider subscribing. And we'll see you guys around. Goodbye for now.